I need something that's like 3-pin. Okay, no, it's not gonna work.
Would this be okay?
It should be fine. I think I need to just go in on...
Would you prefer to present from this one?
No, I can present from that. Do I just keep moving that?
Yeah, your arrow keys back and forth.
No, but then I just need something for the notes, so...
Sure.
But I think if we have... How much time do we have on this? I think it's fine as long as...
You've got about 20 minutes.
Yeah, and just let me just go on presenter view. Yeah, I think I should be fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you so much for joining in. So my name is Rashi. I'm from the Accessibility Lab. And given the time we have, I'm going to do a little overview of accessibility. I'm not sure if we'll have time for case studies, but trying to look at a few aspects of what can strengthen accessibility, and of course, going to ask you, and you can also ask me some questions. So we look at promoting the digital rights of accessibility and people who have different disabilities, which we think should be vital to anybody. We look at accessibility as an ability to be able to function, someone who can operate the different devices we have access to the different versions of browsers, and basically looking at the least path of resistance, eliminating different obstacles when transmitting, receiving, or understanding information. We also get, one of the things we also see in the open source conversation and around is a lot of people like to interchange and look at accessibility and usability as one and the same thing. But they are very different. The way we operate is very different. Although usability, we have a lot of allies in the usability space, but accessibility in hand with usability does strengthen and provide an extra level of security or privacy or any of those factors that people look at in. We also look at offering users and customers with a good user experience, because accessibility for people who have different abilities fail to consider people with different disabilities, whether it's whether you have a motor disability, you can have a visual disability, you can have a physical disability, and you can also have a disability a lot later on. I see my parents aging, and a lot of them also have disabilities with a lot of aspects in the visual world. We also know someone in our open source space who was visually challenged for a very long time. This is a slide we usually use based on who we're talking to. So we talk to private sector, we talk about how it has competitive advantage and how it can help with SEOs and positioning and compatibility. Also, depending on which region you're from, complying with legislation, because some of the legislations are pretty strong if implemented regionally. So our accessibility, we look at increasing the number of users and keeping the ones that we have, whether it's providing accessible online services, providing a sense of autonomy. So this is a project that I worked with, carries around. So we're just going to show you some aspects of how people with different vision see it. So this is normal vision. This is someone with hemianopia, macular degeneration, diabetic retinopathy, glaucoma, tratronopia, protonopia, achronotopasia. So this is looking at an overview of the different lawsuits that we've seen. This is data from 2022 on the lawsuits that have been sued, class action lawsuits. So it can be from e-commerce websites where companies and services have failed to provide basic accessibility or adhere to basic accessibility guidelines. You can also see food security. You can also see education somewhere, but education should also be somewhere here. But basically, people who are challenged, most of them like to enjoy a personal, social life, to be able to access things they want, given that they have so many challenges for mobility. And websites have been, we would say, the primary target. So yes, I know that we live in an app culture, but a lot of people with disabilities like using websites. We also look at understanding different personas. We have assistive. We work a lot on providing audits for websites, or it can be applications. And one of the reasons we were not typically in the open source realm, but the reason why we got into the open source realm, because we realized that a lot of open source teams, although they care about a lot of the social conscious aspects of accessibility, but they might not have the resources. So for example, we have a long-standing partnership with Open Technology Fund, where we provide pro bono services for applications that work on countering surveillance or looking at enhancing the privacy and security of these tools that look at censorship and look at countering it in an effective way. So this is the simulator. How many of you all have heard of, do any of you all use, is there anyone who has an experience with accessibility here, or is there, maybe, yeah, I'd love to kind of maybe get an on-site view of.
Some of the apps in Linux are really inconsistent, right? NVDA, for example, and they use different. I don't know. It's okay. Let me rephrase. Sorry.
No, it's absolutely fine. Go ahead.
Over in Mac OS is just so superior than Linux, and because in Linux there's not a lot of investment happening. So I just feel like this is why I have a Mac, unfortunately as well, because it's just so more accessible. So this is the things I think about. I used to work on the canonical Ubuntu installer, and we just had so many accessibility issues. So yeah, in the open source ecosystem, it just feels like it needs to be invested more.
Is there anyone who uses a screen reader, or otherwise go ahead?
Me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I use screen reader, and given that I am studying software development at school, like Windows and Linux are kind of like both the environment, and given how like accessibility kind of is still on its way for a lot of GUI apps in Linux, it kind of forced me to stay only in a terminal or just SSH into the server. And I know there's some current dev work going on to like kind of fix some. I know like GNOME is doing working on their desktop environment and such, and make things to set standard and make applications follow like a guideline of like accessibility, but it looks like it's still gonna take a while.
Are you someone who also works with these tools regularly? Is it something as a part of your employment? Are you looking to get into it?
Well, I don't use the tools currently because they're not accessible, but I've definitely looked into.
Okay, thanks so much. Is there anyone else? Just one. We have one last one. Anyone who'd like to chime in, or I can just move on? Okay, so these are assistive technologies. We have braille displays and switches. I don't have any, but we also have a few keyboards that are braille friendly, and of course they're also catering to folks who people use different switches. They might have a disability with the hand. But just showing you a few visual examples. There'll be eye tracking devices. Can I show you a few more? Yeah, screen readers. Google TalkBack, NVIDIA, JAWS. There's anyone who's had experience with that. And I'll also move to legislation. I know I'm in a tech conference, but I think legislation is also an important aspect when it comes to pushing ways in which and also improving everyone's information about what's out there and what's really happened. Yes, we did have the convention, the UN Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities that acknowledged it in 2005, 2006. But again, it doesn't necessarily mention anything about web accessibility. It talks about how people should uphold the rights of people with disabilities by providing them with dignity, respect, and livelihood. But nothing specifically on the web. But it was still an important aspect which was signed together by different UN countries at the New York headquarters in 2007. Yes, the US is, I feel like it's an example where a lot of the aspects have happened in a very reactive measure, because there have been reactions of lawsuits and people just suing different people, which is what has led to the ADA Act being so strong when it comes to fining organizations. And I'll perhaps go a bit, I'm not going to go into the details of how it came about and what happened, but I can go ahead and talk a little bit about lawsuits. And there have been hundreds of them. Target has been one which had a class action lawsuit damage of $6 million. You can also see Bed Bath & Beyond, Home Depot, Domino's Pizza. Surprisingly, a lot of educational institutions as well. Harvard, Massachusetts, and Netflix. And for something very basic, for not providing closed captioning. Even when I fly now, I would still see a lot of the entertainment content, only 5 to 10% of them have closed captioning or any sort of captioning that makes it disability friendly. What I will know that I do have a local airline that I enjoy flying a lot, which finally had sign language interpretation and translation. But yeah, there really is a long way to go there. We've also had, okay. So I have 5 more minutes. So yeah, in 2014, FedEx was also sued by a U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. In 2005, you also had the National Association of Deaf that stepped in, supported it, and FedEx actually came back and said that we're so sorry, we don't actually have the money to be able to comply with these aspects. But then anyways, they had to pay damages in perhaps a few millions. But I mean, the idea, what I'm also trying to get at is that a lot of these companies have the opportunity to be able to make amends, but they don't. Yeah, so a lot of, and perhaps a lot of the culture also, you have a lot of other governments that are following suit. You have Canada, you can see as an example the Accessibility Act which they passed, but it only complies with government or the public sector that has to comply with the basic level of accessibility. You can also see that in the EU, where you have a lot of the accessibility requirements for ICT products and services. They specifically, I do believe they have a provision where they mention certain aspects of accessibility. I'm just reading the clause. They do have aspects of accessibility where they talk about everyone adhering to the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.1 Level A for clarification. They also talk about, but again, it only applies to public sector bodies, so anyone in the nonprofit space, civil society, or private sector gets by. But then what are these content accessibility guidelines? So they basically, again, when we talk to you, we're not doing anything new, we're not reinventing the wheel, we're just adhering to things that have always been there. The World Wide Web Consortium has a web accessibility initiative which anyone can join, anyone can sign up. They create content, they also create, and they for a very long time, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.2 was passed in October, so they've been around a long time, from the 1980s. They build curriculum and they build directives and they build guidelines on how things across the world, web interfaces, can be more accessible, understandable. So they have, currently the guidelines has 4 principles, 13 guidelines, and 3 levels of accessibility. And I can talk about, we won't have time to talk going about into the principles and guidelines, but then we can move a little bit into examples of what is, A-level accessibility, AA accessibility, AAA accessibility. Most of the public sector government websites across the world, whether it's ADA or whether it's the Canadian legislation or even within the EU, they have to adhere to AA guidelines. And in the US, I think with the ADA and with the implementation of the ADA, the legislation is such that you will get fined until you're able to achieve that specific criteria. So one of the, I know it's a cheesy example, but this is one of my favorite examples. This is the accessibility statement from the White House, which talks about their ongoing accessibility efforts and the criteria that they follow, and how people, and they also mention the different disability aspects, whether it's sensory, cognitive, vision. I think it's a great example. I'm going to talk a little bit about detail. Do we have time? I'm sorry for rushing, but then I just want to ensure that I can also show you some examples. We talk about 4 tenets under the content accessibility guidelines. Perceivable, where we want our users to be able to perceive and are able to sense, use one or more of their senses to be able to see the content, and then you talk about operable, where users should be able to also control the UI elements, whether it's buttons or using a keyboard or a mouse. And robust is the content must be well adopted to the current standards that we have, whether it's functioning across different browsers and applications. And understandable is, of course, the content must be comprehensible to its users. So some examples. This is alternative text. It's a level A example where it's a textual substitute for a non-text in web pages. It focuses on images, but it also applies to multimedia and other content. So it also serves many functions. It can also be seen with screen readers that announce alternative text in place of images, helping users with visual, cognitive disabilities. And also in cases of places where you don't have a high quality of service or low bandwidth with internet. If an image fails to load, then the browser will represent the alternative text visually in search of it. Okay, I'm going to end. So this is an example of alternative text, closed captioning, examples. I'm going to end with this. Can I play a YouTube video? I wanted to show them an example.
You cannot play audio through the system. You can try and turn up my laptop audio as high as it will go.
Okay, do you mind playing this? Because this is the example of audio descriptions.
Right.
Audio description is an example of audio description. This is again level A. So then maybe you can hear. There's no volume though.
Oh, give me 2 seconds. It's got my Bluetooth headphones.
Oh no, it's fine.
Oh no, wait. I think it's because it's going through the HDMI. I don't think you're going to get audio.
No, maybe through this one. No.
Yeah, you could maybe play and turn the volume all the way up.
Yeah. 1 second.
Because it's in the.
How do I? Oh yeah. Oh no, I get it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Okay, no, wait. And this is. Do I just play this and they can see this? Okay, no, they can hear them.
I will. Okay, ready? Go.
Okay, go.
Oh, Wreck-It Ralph. Disney.
Can you hear?
A carrot-nosed coal-eyed snowman shuffles up to a purple flower peeping out of deep snow. Hello! He takes a deep sniff. His nose lands in a frozen pond. A reindeer looks up and pants like a dog. Seeing the reindeer slip on the ice, the snowman smiles and moves towards him. But actually, he's running on the spot. The reindeer falls on his chair. The snowman uses his arm as a crutch. The reindeer paddles his front legs. Head over heels, the snowman crawls along the ice. The reindeer does the breaststroke. The snowman rolls his body, but flips onto his back. The reindeer's tongue sticks to the ice. The snowman howls his head. Twig arm and reindeer lips tug at the carrot. The carrot flies off and lands in soft snow. The reindeer goes after it with Snowman and his body parts hanging on his tail. The snowman puts himself back together again and glumly contemplates his noseless state. The reindeer jams the carrot back in place and pants like a proud puppy. The snowman pants him with his stick for an animal, then goes to sneeze. He grabs his nose with both hands. His head shoots off. Frozen, covered this winter, 3D.
Okay, and with that, thank you so much. I'm just gonna. Yes, thank you so much for listening. I'm sorry for being a bit rushed, but if anyone has any questions. Also, if you are an open source tool, we'd be happy to do an assessment and audit. We even do trainings where we go a little more deep dive into success and fail criteria of what goes on. Please do reach out to us. You have my QR code here. Hopefully it's easier for you. But thank you so much for listening and joining. And if there's anyone who has any questions, maybe do we have,
You have 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Anyone at all? Yes?
I just checked, there is no accessibility track for the FOSDEM. Maybe you or someone in this room may want to organize one next year, because as someone said earlier, I think someone presented, we are all, as we get older, we will all get more and more disabilities. And actually, like most of them, I think already have one, which is pretty obvious. Like I couldn't drive the night without my glasses. So I wonder if next year we could have an accessibility track. That would be really nice.
We're happy to have that. Thank you for that question.
Could you repeat that into the mic for the recording? Just what the question asker said. Just repeat
No, I
what
said
he said.
we'll be happy to look into it. Can you hear that? I said we'll be happy to look into that. Thank you so much for the suggestion. Our idea is that we want to build a culture of accessibility throughout, especially in the open source tool space, because it's free, it's easily available, and also abiding by the principles of making it more accessible for people with different disabilities. Yes, please?
Well, this is not just to your presentation, more like in general, since you mentioned that you want to make the open source community more accessible. One thing I noticed is that every single talk I've been to today, sure, like I can hear what's going on, but then the slides and the presentations are not like loaded ahead of time, so then there's no way I can follow along. Like I would just like someone just be like, oh yeah, you can look at this and that. I'm like, what is this? What is that? One big issue there, and I know that they probably do put it out there after, but when I really go back to it, to look at the slides again.
We'll be less sloppy next time. Thanks. Is there anyone else? Comments? Anything else? Okay, no, that's it.
Do you want to briefly talk about like the process of going through the lab with OTF?
Yes, absolutely. So with the OTF, we're a part of the Secure Usability and Accessibility Lab, and now it's called the User